A journalist's job is to uphold democracy. So whenever you see that the rights and the freedoms of people are not being looked after by the government, it's the journalist's job to ask questions and report and find out what can be done to improve the situation of the rights of the people. When you have an absence of journalists doing proper journalism, because there will always be journalists around, but if you're not reporting on what's going on for fear or concern that you might get in trouble by the government or you might get in trouble by large corporations, then those corporations and the government are able to get away with much more. They're not going to be held to account, and therefore the citizens' rights will be eroded over time. In countries where journalists are under threat, they're usually under threat from pressure from the government, who may enforce laws that are particularly prone to putting journalists into prison or fining journalists or stopping journalists being able to work, harming the family of journalists, harming the business interests of journalists and their families. Other things that can happen are that large corporations and corrupt officials can either corrupt journalists by paying bribes to journalists for certain reporting to be done, or they can endanger journalists' lives by threatening journalists and sometimes even killing journalists. In countries where journalists are most under threat, that's actually where journalism is the most important. And it's sometimes very hard to do your job. And as a journalist, sometimes you just have to chip away. You won't always get the big story. You have to chip away and chip away, keep yourself safe. No story is worth dying for. You just chip away at the officials. Try to cultivate your sources. Try to get information. Get good advice on how to keep yourself safe. Hopefully have a good editor who you can talk to, who can guide you and tell you how far you should go with the story, and never ever compromise yourself for a government official or for a member of a large corporation who may want you to do something that is unethical. That's it.